Hi! In my last video about the backdoor progression, I showed you what this progression is. You learned what it looks and sounds like, and I told you 7 examples of how you can apply that backdoor progression in your own songwriting and playing. Now I want to discuss why this progression works so well. I will give you 8 different perspectives to understand why this progression works. Many of these 8 perspectives will contrast the backdoor progression with a more regular cadence. So let's stick to our key of C major here, like we did in the other video, and look at 2 very common cadences in the key of C major. The first one is the 4 to 5 to 1 progression, or subdominant to dominant to tonic. In our example, that's F to G to C. Just the very prototypical classic cadence. The second one is the 2-5-1 progression, or D minor G to C in our example key of C major. This is a very common cadence in jazz music, but also in pop music, in any kind of music. It's pretty similar to the first classic cadence. It's just that you substitute the first chord with its relative minor chord. So you substitute the D minor for the F major, and that's it. So we'll keep these 2 cadences in mind. And now here are the 8 different perspectives to understand why the backdoor progression works. One, the dominant chord on the flat 7th scale degree, which is the B flat major in our example, has 2 notes in common with the regular dominant chord, which would be G7. So 2 notes might not sound as much, but the chord has 4 notes, so it's 50% of its chord tones are actually the same as the regular dominant chord. Number 2, the 5th and the flat 7th of the B flat major chord, B flat dominant chord, resolve a half step down to the 3rd and the 5th of the tonic chord. So we have the F and the A flat. They both resolve down a half step to E and G. So they are, in fact, leading tones towards the tonic. And the whole purpose of a dominant chord, or a chord playing the dominant function, is to provide leading tones to the tonic. So we got 2 leading tones to the tonic here, and this makes it a perfect substitute for a regular dominant chord. The third perspective is that the B flat 7 chord can in fact be seen as an altered chord voicing for the regular dominant, which would be G7. So let's look at the B flat 7 in terms of the G7. If you put a G7 in the bass, then this chord is simply playing the 7th and the 5th of the G7 chord, but it is also adding 2 altered chord tones, the flat 9 and the sharp 9. The flat 9, as we already saw, provides an extra leading tone towards the tonic. Using altered chords for dominant functions is pretty common practice. I will shortly do another video solely on altered chords. So stay tuned, subscribe if you want to be notified once this is out. If this video on altered chords is already out while you're watching this video, I will link it somewhere here. Number 4, the backdoor progression variant that we chose, which is the 4 to flat 7 to 1, is in fact borrowing chords from the parallel minor key. So if you look at that, the parallel minor key of C major is C minor, and the chords of F minor and B flat 7 are both in the key of C minor. In fact, if you go a little further, if you take the relative major of C minor, that would be E flat major. And if you look at the backdoor progression, then you see that the F minor 7 to B flat 7 is a regular 2-5 cadence in the key of E flat major. 5. The first two chords of the backdoor progression variant that we picked, the F minor 7 to B flat 7, are actually a fifth apart. If you look at it, the F moves down a fifth to the B flat. So it moves along the cycle of fifth. And the cycle of fifth is a very strong force in music. So this creates a strong, coherent inner structure for these two chords, so that they can kind of stand on their own, even though they appear in a different key than C major. This concept of a strong inner structure works so well that you could even take this progression in a totally different key, far away from C major, and it would still sound convincing because the ear recognizes that inner structure, that coherent structure, that these chords belong together. And a sixth perspective on why the backdoor progression works is if you look at the first chord, the F minor 7 chord, then it's simply the subdominant chord, right? It's just that it's minor instead of major. And this minorizing of the subdominant is actually a rather common practice. So this chord, this F minor 7, is very closely related to the subdominant chord, the F major. 7. If we look at the first chord again, the F minor 7, it looks pretty similar to a D half diminished or D minor 7 B5 chord. If you look at it, there's actually 3 of the 4 notes they have in common. And if you look at the D half diminished chord, it is just the 2 chord in C major. And it is not the regular 2 chord, but it is the 2 chord in a minor key. And again, this is common practice. Even if you're in major, you would do a 2-5 progression in a minor key to resolve it to a C major tonic. And the last perspective I want to give you on why the backdoor progression works is this. The 4 to flat 7 progression, or the F minor 7 to B flat 7, is actually a tritone substitution of the 2-5 progression in the relative minor key. So that's quite a lot. So let's look at that in detail. We are in the key of C major. If you look at the relative minor key of C major, this is A minor. Now construct a 2-5 progression, a regular cadence, in the key of A minor. This would lead to B minor to E7. This is the 2-5 in the key of A minor. Now we do a tritone substitution, a pretty common thing in jazz music and also pop music. You just move everything a tritone up or down. So if we do that with this progression from B minor to E7, we move B minor a tritone, we end up with F minor. Then we move E7 a tritone, and then we end up with B flat 7. So at the end we have a F minor 7 to B-flat 7 progression, which is just what we call the backdoor progression. These were 8 different perspectives to understand why the backdoor progression works. I'm almost certain that this list is not complete. There might be more ways to explain this phenomenon and explain why it works. If you know of a creative way to explain the backdoor progression that I did not cover in this video, feel free to leave me a comment. In case you haven't checked out the first video on the backdoor progression, you might want to go watch that now. You might also want to have a look at my other videos where I explain different music theory concepts. I will keep adding videos in the future, so if you want to be notified of new videos, please subscribe to my channel. But for now, thanks for watching. I hope I could give you some new insights into the world of music theory and how you can apply it to your own playing. Now use that knowledge, go out and write great songs and make fantastic music.